Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Oh, good, good. Hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. So happy to be with you this morning. So let's start with meditation. So take your attention inside, down just below the belly button. Breathe into this space. And immediately feel for the space in between the breaths. And allow your attention to drop into the base of the spine. The tip of the tailbone. And you may feel your breath changing to a deeper kind of breath called Ujjayi breathing, which goes up through the nose to the top of the head and down. Gently allow your eyes to open, holding your attention deeply inside yourself. So you hold to this connection. To that which is the source of life. As you just open your eyes, understand there is only one reality that includes both. They are not separate. So my voice is really low this morning. As we speak, it will probably come up. But it's just the way it is today. We're so happy to be with you, and we welcome your questions and experiences and reports. So we'll speak a little bit till somebody has a question about the experience we just had, which is Ujjayi breathing is a way of connecting ourselves deeply with the breath. And naturally, when we breathe in that way, the breath begins to elongate that space between the breaths. And so that can take us into a state of meditation, a state beyond words, with very little effort. And the effort is really in making that sound. And that will naturally open the central channel. And it creates an opening into a kind of spaciousness. So we invite you to practice with that as part of your meditation and see what it begins to show you. And it's not exactly about controlling the breath, but allowing the breath to show you its source. Always we talk about allowing. Because there is no making things happen in the field of spiritual awareness. There is allowing our perception to change. And because we are venturing into the unknown in ourselves, we don't know how that change is going to manifest internally or externally. And so what we're cultivating within ourselves is the capacity to allow something different into our experience, into our field of awareness. And the essential requirement for that allowing to happen is trust. And for each of us, the trust and the barriers to it are slightly different. But the trust is the essential thing. To trust that the next breath will come in its own time. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. That we all have a finite time. And that we can be in peace about that. That life has natural cycles. That we can come into alignment with. Now, a lot of this is at odds with the American ideal of manifest destiny. That we can do whatever we want, that we can be whoever we want to be, that we can make things happen, and that this is what life is for, to control our environment around us, our external environment. And we see what that's done to the planet. This idea that we are in control and that we must force things to obey our demands. Now, this doesn't mean that self-discipline is not required. But self-discipline is something entirely different from manifest destiny. In many ways, it's the opposite. And it's not that spirituality takes away the need for us to be aware of our behavior. In many ways, what we learn about spirit allows us to change in a way that supports the dynamic of the whole, which is not the same as imposing our will on the dynamic of the whole. And so this in every situation can be a little bit tricky. So it requires us to learn to be quiet and patient. And most of us are at an age where these are things we naturally tend toward. which is part of why we're having this conversation. And understand whenever fear arises, which it does for all of us, that we say, hello, fear, what are you here to show me? Am I safe in this moment? And then we move forward or sideways or backward, whichever way is required to adjust our view. We welcome your questions. Yes.
The day before Thanksgiving, I was verbally and emotionally attacked by a friend's husband. I am still struggling to process this. I don't believe I did anything to deserve this. Can you help?
Well, we don't want to expose you, but we need a little bit more information. When people verbally attack us, it's because we have, in their perception, done something that makes them afraid most of the time. A lot of anger arises from fear. Is that information helpful? So one thing is, when men get angry with women, it brings us into the experiences that we had as a child of the displeasure of our father. And so most of our learning as children for survival is that pleasing our father was essential. And so when these things happen, all of those experiences are brought back to life. And so it's very important that we, first of all, love the feminine in ourselves, love the wounded child by the masculine in ourselves, honor the rightness and power of being female. And then see if our perspective on what happened doesn't change. And we understand that one of the fundamental things about the masculine is the warrior that needs to be right, needs to be powerful, and needs to be in control. And then we look again at what happened. And if there is something about our behavior that becomes evident, we make an effort to change that. Understanding that we have no power to change anybody else's feelings or behavior, only our own. And sometimes these things happen because in a certain arena, we're finished. We don't have any more work to do in that field. That whatever we came together for is done. But sometimes it means that we need to look at ourselves a little more deeply and see how our behavior may be affecting the situation. We don't really have enough information to say anything definitive. So we're talking very generally about how to approach this within yourself, because what has been disturbed is your own inner peace. And what needs to be healed is your reaction to this event. So it's not about right or wrong. It's about finding equanimity, peace within yourself. And that inner peace is like a teeter-totter. It's learning to be in that space that doesn't move up and down, even though the forces around it are very powerful. And it's like having that in every dimension that we interact, there is a center. And spiritual practice is finding that center and reestablishing it through our inner dialogue with ourselves. And understanding our own leverage points. You know, what tipped us off the place of peace, and healing that within ourselves. And from that place, we can discover equanimity. we all have disagreements with others that make us really uncomfortable because they trigger something within us that's not yet resolved. So we can be grateful for these experiences because we have attracted them to show us our own lack of equilibrium in that particular setting. This is part of the natural checks and balances of the logic of love, as life teaches us. And it becomes, we won't use the word fun, but we'll say gratifying to discover and accept within ourselves the changes we need to make to reestablish our equilibrium. This isn't an easy path. It's easy to understand, but it's hard to, it's difficult because we want to be every one of us wants to be more enlightened than we are. That's why we're here. And we want to feel good about our inner work. And we want to feel good in our lives, like we understand what we're doing here. And when other people don't cooperate, it makes us really uncomfortable. When we understand that resolving that disharmony within ourselves is the whole point of every adversity, then it becomes simple. Not easy, but at least we understand what we're aiming for. And we can take ourselves into a quiet space and begin to experience how to reestablish that equilibrium. And we don't want it to be a Pollyanna kind of false positivity. We want to really know. And so in holding to that knowing, we allow ourselves to awaken to the truth of whatever. And always when there's a disequilibrium, there is a feeling of disempowerment because we don't understand. So we ask deeply for the understanding to be shown what it is we need to know. And we don't set a time limit on it because it may be a life lesson that takes us 10 minutes, and it may take 10 years. But we reaffirm that we're here to understand, not in an intellectual way, but in an energetic way, so that we can reestablish peace. We hope that answers your question, please.
Well, a comment that came in a bit ago said, I have tried to relate to him as I have known my friend for 30 years. Yes, your answer is helpful. And then more recently, thank you so much.
You're totally welcome. Thank you for asking the question. We bow to your willingness to receive the answer. How may we serve further?
I'll piggyback on that because I have a similar challenge with somebody I consider a friend. Total misunderstanding. I've tried to reach out and now I'm at the point where do I just love them enough to just let this go? Or do I try to continue to engage? I would be, sad that the friendship would be over. I would, move on. But I don't know how much energy to. I don't know. Again, I'd be sad, but I can do it.
Well, understand that the relationship that is at stake is not ever about the other person. The relationship that is at stake is the relationship with your own love for yourself. And when other people are unhappy with us, the first thing that's triggered is a kind of self-rejection for all of us, because we have displeased another without knowing what we did or how to fix it. And so our immediate response is usually to try to placate the other. Because this worked for us in our childhood to try to make our parents happy. As adults, our discovery is about how to in many ways, how to love ourselves in the way that our parents couldn't love us because they didn't know how. And this is a very, very deep process that we engage in ourselves. It's in the depths of our understanding of who and what we are that we allow divinity, allow love itself to teach us self-love with a capital S. This is not a small s thing. This is a capital S thing. That love that we seek has never been lost. It's always there. But in our failure to, our perceived failure to please those who will not be pleased, who cannot be pleased is a better word, that becomes a trigger for others' displeasure of us. And it requires us to say, I was never out of alignment in myself with the love that I felt. So this is a misunderstanding that has been chosen by another. I have experienced this same misunderstanding over and over in my childhood. And so it always leaves me with a question mark. And that question mark has gotten stronger and stronger over time, rather than my self-love with a capital S. This is love of divine self. And you allow that question mark to be overwhelmed with love. And then the outcome is not about you, but given to that divine love. It's no longer personal then. We are so grateful for this question. If the answer makes no sense, please ask again. We bow to your willingness to receive this answer. How may we serve further? We saw another question about to happen. So someone asked us about omens, maybe the last time we were together, or I don't know, at some point. And so we're going to relate an experience to you. Rebecca's been going through some reevaluation of purpose and direction, and so she asks for a sign about whether to continue on her current path. And at the time she was walking the dog and came across a bridge. And at the other end of the bridge, there was an owl with its arms outstretched, its wings completely stretched out. And then as she and the dog approached, the wings came back in, and there was this beautiful flight that was witnessed. And that had contained in it peace, just a total sense of peace and flow. That was a clear omen. So that's how omens work. We'll give you another example that happened to Andrew some years ago. He had been in a deep conversation asking about his purpose and had received an answer that he hadn't begun to assimilate. And he walked out the door to his car, and there was a beautiful accumulation of flowers in the center of the hood of his car, beautiful camellias. And the same thing, there was this overwhelming peace that came. And so this is how omens can be experienced. There are other ways too, but we'll just start with that. So it's nature confirming or affirming something that we haven't quite allowed into our beingness. So omens are signs from nature that tell us we're in alignment. So capital S, self-love. Is what we are all searching for. It's another word for alignment. And that alignment for a very long time comes and goes. And at a certain point, we realize that the alignment is actually the stillness itself. It's what doesn't change in our experience. And just feel for a minute how hard it is to experience what doesn't change. Because we notice things by the change. The change is always grabbing our attention. And we're responding and reacting and negotiating and boxing and, doing everything we can with what does change. And meditation is about cultivating the experience of that which does not change. And there's that within us which doesn't want that experience to be subtle. We want it to come and grab us. You know, we want to experience awakening that that is complete and final and will make us immune to the change we're experiencing all the time. That is imposing our will on that which is what we are seeking. It's all very tricky, especially when you try to put it into words. And yet one glimpse of it changes us forever. Now, you have to know that Rebecca is experiencing all the things that you are. She's not different. This is human experience. What's coming through is as valuable to her as it is to you. Because nobody, no human being is immune or finished in our experience, completely finished. And we can't really speak to the saints because we don't know their experience. Every culture has them. But Rebecca is not one of them. And so we want to be very clear about that, because our guidance is guidance from another dimension. And the love that comes through is coming through to awaken you to what's available, to cultivate within yourselves. And Rebecca has this task as well. All human beings have this task. And having the awareness of the availability of love and the experience of it tends to encourage us to get our ego identity involved. And so we have to be eternally vigilant that that doesn't become the driver. Especially as we cultivate our own awareness of divinity and begin to experience it more and more. That we are always skeptical about our desire to influence outcomes. That's how we'll say it. So we just thought we'd share that. So you see, it's all very much a razor's edge. And, you know, being human is not exactly easy. One of our teachers who was from New York used to say that the Earth is the Bellevue of the solar system. And Bellevue in New York is the mental hospital, or used to be the central mental hospital. And so we don't, at this moment, have access to where Earth falls in the galactic perspective of awareness. And the audacity to think that life in its highest form is human, that's got to be delusion. And we can say that with a lot of confidence at our age. You know, when we were younger, we were not so sure. So one of the things, and this is serious, one of the things we can really give ourselves a lot of credit for is that we are trying every day to discover what is the highest possibility for a human being in our own lives. Every day we are trying for that. And so this is the foundation, really, that we can base our self-love as we discover both capital S and small s self-love, capital S being the divine universal connection with the highest for the whole, and small s being our attention to outcome and devotion to outcome, which is the nature of being human. And as we begin to, and we're always beginning, every day we're starting freshly to align ourselves to the highest as self, and what that means and how that expresses itself and how it can be expressed in this life today. And we just keep doing it because it is our experience, all of us, that where we put our attention is what grows. And our attention and intention are the two most valuable things that we possess in terms of personal growth. And then the flip side of that is allowing ourselves to learn. And a lot of the reason that we use the word allowing is because a lot of what we have to let go of is about unlearning what we were taught as children. Because most of what we were taught as children was given to us by people who themselves were so immature that they really had no idea of what they were transmitting to us and whether or not it was right. It was just transmitted to them in very much the same way that we received it, without any permission and mostly without much education, and mostly in reaction to what they were given. And the experiences that happened to them, which either opened them or closed them, and mostly was a set of both. But most of our parents had no option to, or understanding that the highest self could be available, that understanding could be available to cultivate within. And so they didn't really have a chance. And yet there are many parts of our lives that remain unexamined because we assume that it somehow worked for them, and so it is supposed to work for us. And so a lot of our world belief is informed by that misconception. And then further, our culture has embedded within it in some assumptions that our parents either took as valid or not. But there are another level of awareness, matrix of belief to be addressed. Things like the current of manifest destiny, and that we can change anything we want. And it's naturally going to be for the better because it works for us. You know, this is the trap of colonialism. And so you can see why people in cultures like India just stop talking. They stop participating, and they they feel within themselves for decades. Brahmanas sat in silence in a cave for decades, 2 decades. And what came out of him after that was not personal. a lot of his life was dedicated to praying to a mountain. Arunachala Shiva. Arunachala is a mountain. So let's do that chant for a few minutes. It's simple. You can do it with us. And then we'll go into meditation. Arunachala Shiva. Arunachala Shiva. Arunachala Shiva. Arunachala. 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 Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala, 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 Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Thank you so much for coming today. We've completely enjoyed being with you. Mm. We look forward to getting together next time. So much love to you all. Mm. Bye for now.